2. Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. As you know, these are the good days. The first place, number 1 with the Bullet Ravens headed to Buffalo this weekend. This guy's been waiting around for football games like this a long time. He's covered sports in the Western New York area for WGRZ. You can find him out on Twitter at Stu Boyar, and always good to have a matchup with the Bills. Feels like we play you guys like in the preseason or various games. This is certainly as big a Buffalo-Baltimore matchup as we've had in this era or any era going back to O.J. Simpson. I would think that your community's pretty worked up about some potential of January football, which is pretty rare in Western New York, right?
I would say worked up doesn't quite describe it. How about ecstatic and over the top? That win over the Cowboys in dominating fashion got people through the roof, and they know that AFC East title is within grabs after the Patriots lost last night. So people are thinking ahead, and they can't wait for this Ravens game Sunday to kick off.
We've all been smelling blood in the water around the Patriots for a long time, right? I mean, no one more closely than you and the Jets and the Dolphins fans. But there does feel to be like he's 42 years old, right? And Gronkowski's not coming back, and Randy Moss isn't coming back, and him being 29 isn't coming back. It does feel like that there is a brass ring to grab at if you're the Buffalo Bills right now.
Definitely. I mean, okay, I get it. He's still Tom Brady, but he's got no weapons. I mean, if you take Edelman and James White out of that game last night, they get shut out, right? He's got nothing, very little to work with. And yes, it feels like there is a brass ring to grab for, but for the Bills, first it's the Ravens on Sunday, and that should be a tremendous matchup.
Well, let's talk about the Bills and what's powered their engine. I've looked up and down the depth chart here. All sorts of familiar faces, whether it was Steven Hauschka running out to kick the ball on Thanksgiving as I was having a little turkey, or Smokey Brown getting behind the defense. Familiar names. I think guys that have been there a while, like Jerry Hughes. But the turnaround's been pretty dramatic during the Sean McDermott period, right? Like that has been where the story begins, is they've got a ball coach who's a pretty good leader.
Yes, I think he's a very good leader. I do think it starts with him. He said from the day he got here, it's a process, and trust the process. And I think in year 3, things are beginning to pay off, and it starts with defense. It's the defense that has carried that team, and now you're seeing the offense get into the party a little bit as Josh Allen matures. John Brown's been a big part of it. What I like about this team is they seem to be quite close and quite cohesive. And when that happens, there's a level of trust that you won't have in other situations. But this team, the defense is the one that's kept them in most of the games, and what you saw from the offense on Thanksgiving was pretty impressive. And if the kid quarterback keeps on making progress like that, the Bills are going to be very good for a long time. Things here have completely turned around from, say, the Rex Ryan era, and it's taken some time. And it's been a long time, as you know, since the Bills were a factor, a real legitimate factor, since those Super Bowl years. But they're on track, and it's a very good defense. Now, this Sunday against the Ravens, they'll have a huge challenge, because I don't know if anybody's ever seen a quarterback like Lamar Jackson. Maybe Patrick Mahomes last year, but they're still different because Jackson brings so much to the table. So it'll be a huge challenge for the defense, but and there's also excitement around here beyond the Ravens when that Steelers game was flexed to Sunday night. But I think McDermott will have everybody focused on Baltimore Sunday, because that's not a matchup you can afford to look past. But it starts with the defense, which has been getting better. Leslie Frazier's done a fabulous job. I think every phase of this team is getting better. I mean, maybe special teams has been struggling. Hauschka is not having a great year. And the special teams have had some issues with big returns, a kick block, a punt block against New England. But for the most part, things are really, really looking up, and the defense has been sound all year. The only downer was the Philadelphia game when they got run over for 257 yards. Some teams have been running on them a little bit, or even look at the Dallas game. They drove down the field and scored, but after that, it's happened a couple of times, but after that, that defense has locked everybody down.
Stu, we're all familiar with Frank Gore, and obviously a couple weeks ago, we saw the game stop and where he is, and against all of the greats, and we had our day with him as we saw the San Francisco 49ers in here the other day. We remember those days as well as the Colt days. Where's the tread on that tire? I mean, some of these running backs are really unbelievable. I mean, Adrian Peterson, in recent times, and and other guys walking away from the game earlier or taking all sorts of punishment to not be able to get to these sort of gaudy career statistics. Frank Gore is really an anomaly, right? Like, as much as we talk about Tom Brady, Frank Gore's that for a running back.
Definitely. Pretty amazing, and I think one of the main reasons he was brought here is influence in the locker room. They had LaShawn McCoy, who's been a very good running back, but he's different, not better or worse, just different than Gore. And, Gore's going to the Hall of Fame, which is not to say McCoy isn't. But Gore has more leadership qualities, and they have a young player named Devin Singletary, and I think they would rather have Singletary around a player like Gore, perhaps, than a player like McCoy. And Gore's like the Energizer Bunny. He just seems to never run out of juice. You know what I mean? He just keeps on going, and he does it in a very quiet, classy way, very humble. The day he passed Barry Sanders for third in the locker room after the game, he told the media to talk to Singletary about his first career 100-yard game. So that's the kind, and it's just more leadership than you might get from some other guys. Tremendous leadership.
Well, he's been around good teams and bad teams, right? Like, literally, we have the same circumstance here with an Earl Thomas coming in and a Mark Ingram, and and through the years, all the players that the Ravens have ever brought in, whether on a second contract or in a trade, whether it's an Anquan Bolden or a Matt Burke or a Trevor Price or any of those guys, when you import them, you're hoping to be importing that sort of a leadership into your team, especially with a team that maybe didn't feel like it had 14 wins in it. I mean, still part of a building thing here. This is pretty heady stuff for what the Bills have accomplished, right? This has been a best-case scenario for 2019 in many ways, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think you never know what the team's expectations are. The fans always have high expectations, and the media had them somewhere. There were some in the media that had them as a 10-win team. A 10-win team. Most of us in the media, I think, had them for the usual 7-9, 9-7, 8-8. But they found ways to win games against teams like the Bengals and the Dolphins earlier in the season. And now it looks like, and again, it's a week-to-week league, but it looks like after that Dallas game, they really found something. And we'll find out Sunday because they have a very good test against arguably, and I would say probably the best team in the league right now, and that's the Ravens.
Stu Boyar joining us here. You can follow him out on Twitter at Stu Boyar. He is a sportscaster at WGRZ. 2 on your side in Buffalo, New York, and Western New York, watching the Sabres, watching the snow, and waiting the 9-3 Bills to host the Ravens this weekend. And you mentioned that Pittsburgh game and getting it flexed out, and that game's down in Pittsburgh, and I'm sure people be making that drive and whatnot. Then there's the Patriot game. We've done the same thing here, like playing that game with the Patriots on Sunday and watching them lose. So we go to number 1, watching Kansas City run all over Oakland and where the Steelers are and how they continue to win. We're trying to figure out how all of this aligns as well. Certainly the Bills are going to be a big factor in all of this, right? I mean, we're going to become real big Bills fans when they're playing the Steelers or when they're playing the Patriots or whatnot. They're going to be in this mix. And you mentioned that, maybe this is something better than the 8-8 or the 9-7. Well, these are 3 weeks here, Ravens, Steelers, Patriots, where when the schedule came out, you looked at these and said, these are all, if you had to pencil a number 2 in there, you may say L or whatever. Maybe now you feel differently about them. But this can be a season-wrecking couple of weeks. As much as it felt good the last couple of weeks, these are really heady challenges for the Bills here upcoming.
Yes, they are. But when the schedule came out and the season started, and that's one of the reasons it was imperative for them to get off to a good start. And they really did that. They had a setback against the Eagles. And they have, I think, the biggest test of the season Sunday against the Ravens, followed by another huge test because playing at Pittsburgh in primetime is tough. And I think, historically speaking, the Bills haven't really done a great job playing at Pittsburgh in primetime. It's a different era. I
Prime
get
time's
all
a big
that.
deal, right? Like, I mean, you could count them on a hand or two, right? Like, the Bills
Yes.
never on Sunday Night Football, right?
No, very, very. I think the last Sunday Night Football game was 2007 against the Patriots, and they lost 56-10 when Randy Moss came in and had a field day.
They haven't been on Sunday Night Football in 13 years?
It's been a long time. I could be
Wow.
wrong on that.
Well, I
Necessarily.
mean,
It's
the fact, even if there
2007.
was another one or two and you can't remember them, that's just, like, I mean, but I don't remember any either. And to your point, there's been nothing sexy to sell about it. You know what I mean? From a national, whose jersey am I going to buy, right, for the Bills the last
Right.
15 years? It's been tough in that way.
Right, but not so much anymore. And I'm telling you, as great as Lamar Jackson is, Josh Allen is getting better. Very different kind of quarterback, but this kid is making great, great progress, and I think that's one of the reasons you're seeing. And John Brown has been a big part of that. You're just seeing this kid mature week after week after week. He seems like a coachable kid. He seems to be quite humble, but man, is he a competitor. And, he's got the big arm. He can run. He can do all kinds of things. And maybe most important, he's coachable. And you can see that he's getting better in just about every area. The only area that hasn't been great has maybe been the long ball, which was good last year. But it's a different season, and I have a feeling that will continue to come along. They hit a longer pass the other day. 2 weeks ago, not against the Cowboys. I even forgot who they played before Dallas.
Denver.
Denver, right. So, things are coming along nicely, and I think he's making great progress, and I think he's going to be an outstanding quarterback in this league for a long time.
All that turkey and pumpkin pie between us. I'm headed to Asia. I'll be watching the game late into the evening in Seoul. I'll be doing post-game, as I always do, with Luke. Commentary, all of that ahead. And, of course, Luke's going to be out in Owings Mills all week long. You can get all the updates on our WNST tech service brought to you by Coons Ford at Security Boulevard. Of course, the morning newspaper as well with updates in Baltimore Positive. Lots of Baltimore Positive stuff going on. Nothing more positive than Lamar Jackson. And Stu, you said we've never seen anything like this, and you can't wait to see it. And the last month we've been on national TV. We have a Thursday night game against the Jets, in the aftermath of this game this weekend in Buffalo. Quick turnaround for the Ravens. Another chance for Lamar to run around and break guys' ankles and whatnot, chasing each other and falling all over each other. What do you feel the Bills' chance of stopping this, containing this, playing more safeties, more corners, getting DBs, getting linebackers, getting speed guys onto the field, and filling up those lanes?
I think the Bills' chances are better than many people give them. I mean, they're at home. They're very good against the run for the most part. They have a very good defense. Now Jackson presents problems. Chances are like they've never seen before. But I'm sure they'll break down the film and they'll come up with some kind of scheme to at least slow him down. I don't think you're going to stop him completely. I think you got to figure out what part of his game are you going to allow him to have some success with and take away the other parts of it. He's very dangerous. To me, the league MVP and no doubt the most exciting player. So it is a challenge. And this coaching staff likes to challenge its players, and boy, they've got the biggest challenge in front of them right there with how to at least slow down this kid who does everything. And funny, if you look at his passing numbers from last week's game, they weren't great. And that's a very good San Francisco defense. And, the problem is he's such a dual threat. He can hurt you with the run or the pass. So it's you have to pick your poison. And I'm thinking maybe they don't want him running too much, I don't think. So I really don't know what they're going to do, but they'll come up with something. They're very good and very creative, and I'm sure they've been doing an awful lot of studying to try and figure out that question that you just asked me, and they're much better prepared to answer it than me because I don't know what you can take away from Lamar Jackson because I haven't seen anybody come up with anything to not even slow him down at all.
Well, it feels like a minute ago I was in the hallway out at the LA Memorial Coliseum last Monday night, and Eric Weddle standing out there catching up with some Baltimore reporters. And, the biggest thing for him is he saw it all year in practice last year, knows about the speed, knows some tendencies, studies film better than anyone, knows where everybody's going to be on the field and what assignments are. And he said that the biggest problem really in playing it is you can't see the ball. And you don't really know where the ball's going. You can only guess. And you have to guess, because if you don't guess, you're flat-footed, right? And if you guess wrong, you better hope you got help. I said, that if you take the wrong first step, it's worth 3 to him. And then he's got you. And, that's really been the issue, is how well he hides the ball and how fast they are off the edge and how schemed up they are to have a Nick Boyle or a Pat Ricard or a pulling tackle out on the edge, bearing down on your safeties and linebackers, and someone coming by you at the speed you haven't seen before, literally.
Right. I don't know. Sorry, I was distracted for a second.
No worries, man. Lamar does that to me, too.
Yeah, I have, honestly, I've never seen anything like him. He put a move on one of the 49ers players in last Sunday's game, and I was like, holy cow, what a move. Quarterbacks don't generally make moves like that.
Every week we see one. Every week there's one in there. You just have to watch the whole film.
Okay, well, good luck stopping that, because like I said, look, one of these weeks somebody will slow him down enough to win a game. Can the Bills do that? I don't know. I'm sure teams have tried everything. I'm sure teams have spied him. I'm sure teams have done everything you can think of that a defense can try to do. And so far it really hasn't worked, because the kid he's just that good. And from a fan's perspective, he's that exciting. And I think fans are looking forward to seeing what he can do against the Bills, and obviously around here, more importantly, what the Bills can do against him. So I think, like most games, it comes down to turnovers. And if the Bills can figure out a way to get some turnovers, which they've been doing a much better job of, at least they did in the Thanksgiving Day game against Dallas, that will help determine the outcome. But I haven't seen Lamar Jackson turn the ball over too many times. So, again, there's another strong suit of his game that I don't know where the weaknesses are. And you guys see him all game, every game. And I don't know if you can find any weaknesses, but if there's weaknesses there, I'm confident that Bill's coaching staff will find it.
I like that he's on our team, and you guys have to figure it out. Hey, man, stay warm out there. Bundle up. Get out to Orchard Park right around Friday. Start to get the RVs out there and bring the wings down from the Anchor Bar. I will be watching from across the world. And sorry I'm missing this trip. Please, Stu, tell everybody out there in Cheektowaga, Depew, and Amherst that I still love them. I didn't make this trip. I'll come to Buffalo in the spring.
Okay, fair enough, Nestor.
Stu, appreciate you.
Seeing you.
Stu Boyar, 2 on your side at WGRZ, the NBC affiliate in the Peacock in Buffalo, New York. You can find Stu out on Twitter at Stu Boyar as well. You can find me out on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, Japan, Korea. I'm going to be all over the place the next week and a half, back for the Jets game. I will be opining on the interweb. Follow along, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat. This is a good week to follow me. I'll be having fun as well as having noodles and sake, and to honor my friends at King Discount Liquor. Sake! Give him hell over there, Johnny Bev. I'll be having sake with my dear friend Julio. So follow along. It's a little bit of a bucket list trip. You'll see what I'm up to. But I'll be following the game and opining. Man, the internet's it's a small world after all. Just like Walt Disney told me first time I went to Disney World in 76. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 at WNST Towson, Baltimore, and WNST International. And we never stop talking. Baltimore Positive as well, episode number 100.